What's up, you guys? Coming back at you all with another Commander Tips video. Another one voted on by my patrons. Go check it out. It's going to be in the description below. If you feel interested in voting on what Commander deck techs I do, what Commander Tips videos I do, go check it out. Doesn't really matter how much you pledge. I will appreciate it regardless. This time, gave them some options, and it was all pretty much the gods from the Theros block, because these make some pretty powerful Commander decks. And they ended up choosing Karametra, God of Harvests, a very good one, in my opinion, because the deck isn't really known for being super oppressive, but you could just throw in some good stuff, Celestia cards, and it all works out pretty well. But a noteworthy theme that has really taken over is the enchantment one, and there's a ton of good enchantments in green-white, enchantment synergies, things that are just going to make the deck work outside of just trying to ramp up insanely high, which is what you're capable of doing if you just play things like Wood Elves, Solemn Simulacrum, a ton of creatures that kind of do the same thing like that, which is what I originally made Karametra as, that type of commander where it's basically a farming simulator. All you're doing is just getting a ton of your lands out of your deck. You're playing mostly basic lands because there are only so many forests and plains that you can choose from before you end up having to go to basics anyway. But the real good thing about trying to go with the enchantment theme, which is really Constellation from the Theros block, that's really what you want to go with, because Constellation has triggers whenever enchantments enter the battlefield under your control. And this is really noticeable with Eidolon of Blossoms. Whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, so enchantment creatures are going to qualify as enchantment, you're going to be able to draw a card, and that's what you want. You want to not only get some decent land drops, but you also want to fill your hand with stuff to use that mana with. So that's a way to go. Now, there aren't too many Constellation cards, but that's the best one that you can play in this deck. The rest is kind of like Constellation, where it's a cast trigger and stuff happens. And this is with cards like Mesa Enchantress, Verduran Enchantress, Argothian Enchantress. These all do the same thing. Whenever you cast an enchantment or play it, it's basically synonymous. You get to draw cards, so gives you more advantage for playing your enchantments, whether they're entering the battlefield or you're casting them. You should have ways of filling your hand back up. But aside from card advantage, we do have some good triggers on cast, like Sigil of the Empty Throne, giving you some creature tokens. We have Celestial Ancient, which is kind of like an Archangel of Thune for this deck. So you definitely have ways of taking advantage of your castings for enchantments. The rest is going to be associating with your enchantments that you have in play. Something like a Starfield of Nyx is incredibly powerful. Gives you a way to bring back enchantments from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is very good. There aren't too many cards that are capable of doing this consistently. They're usually just one-time uses like Auramancer. We do have Sterling Grove, which is incredibly valuable for any enchantment-based deck, really. Gives your other enchantments Shroud and can sacrifice itself, and it's a tutor, so you can't really go wrong there. But the bulk of the deck is going to be enchantments, enchantment creatures, things that happen to do very cool things with enchantments. Stuff like Academy Rector can get you some pretty powerful ones, even though it itself is not going to be an enchantment creature. But we do have very powerful ones like Archetype of Courage, Archetype of Endurance, giving all of your creatures a pretty good keyword like hexproof to all of your creatures, while at the same time taking it away from your opponent's creatures and making it to where they can't have that hexproof is very good. But of course, in the Theros block, we had a ton of enchantment creatures, even ones like Aegis of the Gods, very underrated. And we of course had Nylea, God of the Hunt, and Heliod, God of the Sun. Even though both of these aren't too crazy, these are two of the more tame gods in this block, but giving all of your creatures trample or vigilance, and the fact that they're indestructible enchantments, just like Karametra, is going to make them more viable down the road. Once they do become creatures, they have some decent keywords as well. But the rest is going to be good utility. You can't really do much better than Mirari's Wake when it comes to green-white enchantments. This might be the best of all of them. Being a decent mana doubler is going to work out really well with Karametra, giving you all those lands. And one of my personal favorite enchantments that I think every single white deck in the format should play, or at least consider, is Aura of Silence. It shuts down so many decks that are all about the combo. Those Cheerios decks with Joyra or Sram, making their artifacts cost 2 more is ridiculous. It also works for enchantments too, and at the very worst, you just sacrifice it to destroy an artifact or enchantment, so it's all around versatile. And when you have a deck where the whole purpose is to just throw in some very good cards that happen to be enchantments, when you really don't have too much else going for it, because it's not a very complicated deck. You're either going to be playing for the enchantment synergies, or you're going to be playing for the land ramp synergies. Neither of those strategies are overly convoluted or need too much explanation. But yeah, just play stuff like Aura Shards, and you really can't go wrong. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this Commander Tips video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about Karametra. She is probably one of the safest god commanders to play, because she's incredibly simple, and it's kind of hard to go wrong with her. Even if you just want to play some land ramp creatures and get more land ramp, that's not a bad strategy either. Save up, play some gigantic Eldrazi creatures. I've seen those decks work out pretty well. You guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.